What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Path to Freedom podcast. Thank you for dropping in with me. It's May. It's crazy. I'm recording this. It's May 2nd. This will drop Thursday. I guess that'll be May 4th. So wanted to just put out a short solo episode this week because there's kind of an interesting parallel I wanted to draw between, something I've really been working on in my personal life and, the work I do in my consulting business, Path to Freedom. So, like a lot of people at the beginning of the year, or, you could even say towards the end of last year, 2022, I really sat down and put some thought into, some goals that I wanted to set for the upcoming year. And, for me, one of those goals was really to get in better shape. And, I know that's probably one of, if not the most common, New Year's resolutions or whatever you want to call it, is to get in better shape, right? But I wanted to really, really get in better shape. I wanted to get in the best shape of my life. I'm 36 years old, got young kids, we've got businesses, life's just been wild for the last, 5 or 6 years. We've been running in a lot of different directions and all of that's amazing. But, I'd kind of, let myself go a little bit from a health, from a fitness standpoint. So I remember telling my wife, I want to get in the best shape of my life. And in fact, she and I are taking a trip to Greece this July. So here in a couple of months. So I remember telling her, I don't want to just get in the best shape of my life. I want to look like a Greek god by the time we go to Greece. And she just kind of rolled her eyes at me and, gave me that sure you will, kind of look. But here's the thing is, me wanting to get in better shape and needing to get in better shape was not really due to lack of trying. I was working out and training. I was, or at least I thought I was, eating pretty good, right? And doing things like intermittent fasting and, but I was doing it all on my own, right? I didn't have any guidance. I, would read, I would do some research, I would follow people online that, were trainers or, nutrition experts. And, I'd put some time into, trying to understand, what types of workouts, what types of training should I be doing for the results that I wanted to get? What should I be eating? What should I not be eating? But, there was a couple of things missing. One was I didn't really have the knowledge and the information to apply to get the results that I wanted. The second thing was I didn't really have a system or a process. I wasn't really tracking anything. The workouts I was doing, they were hard and I felt like I was making progress, right? Because I would, be sweating and, sore the next day. I was pushing myself in these workouts. I wasn't phoning it in, but there wasn't really any method to it, right? I wasn't intentionally focusing on different muscle groups and I wasn't, tracking progression in my workouts to see, was I actually getting stronger? And then on the nutrition side, which I would, if I'm being honest, that was probably the piece I was focusing on the least. But I really just didn't have a clue of hey, if my goal is to lose body fat, what should I be eating? How much should I be eating? So the point is, me needing to get in better shape was not because I wasn't trying, right? I was putting in some time. I just didn't really know the best way to do it to get the real results, right? And I didn't want, to just do it for a couple of months, drop some weight, and then go right back to kind of bad habits and the way that, I was approaching this before. I'd even back during the pandemic when the lockdowns were going on, my wife was pregnant with, I think that was our second kid at the time. I did this 75 hard challenge. I think I even did a podcast episode about it and it was brutal, right? It was 2 workouts a day for 75 days straight, plus no alcohol, plus, following a diet plan and all these things. And I actually dropped some weight. I got down to probably the lowest weight I'd been since college. I'd put on some muscle. Like, I looked pretty good, but that program was not sustainable, right? That was something that, day 76, I was like, hell yeah, I'm done with this. Like, let's drink some beer. Let's kind of cut loose a little bit. And so then year and a half later, I was really kind of back to where I'd started when I did that challenge in the first place. So, my goal coming into 2023 was to really learn the science behind the nutrition component, what to eat, how much to eat, really understand what type of training should I be doing. And I wanted to get serious transformational results, but I wanted to do it in a way that was sustainable and that I could incorporate into my life forever. All right. So there's a point to all of this. I'm sure most of you don't, really care about my training routine or, me trying to look like a Greek god for my trip to Greece. Right. But, so here we are in May. So here's what I decided to do. I did a lot of research and decided to hire a trainer. And I actually went with an organization. This is more of a virtual, training. I'm not working one-on-one with a trainer in person that lives in my area. My trainer's actually in the UK. Shout out to Ryan Stevens. He's a beast. And he's been awesome to work with. But I found this program that really resonated with me. This company, it's called Suprahuman. I'll put a link to it in the show notes in case other folks want to check it out. But they're really focused on helping CEOs and entrepreneurs that have been successful in business and probably most other aspects of their life. And like me, they were trying, to do well from a fitness and a nutrition standpoint, but again, just didn't really have that direction. They're not so much focused on the person that needs to lose, 60, 70, 100 pounds. They're focused on the person, just like I described, just like I was, where I probably needed to lose 25 to 30 pounds over time, but, really wanted to do it in a sustainable way and make it a part of my lifestyle forever. So anyways, this company, Suprahuman, it really resonated with me, their mission, their approach to it. And I don't even remember how I found them. I'm sure it was, online, like Instagram or YouTube or something of that nature. So I reached out and I set up a free consultation, right? And I was pretty excited going into it. This is probably October, November timeframe of 2022. So I do my first call with this Suprahuman company. They talk about the program, gets me even more excited than I was going into it. And then they dropped the price on me, right? It was a big number, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for 90 days, to get started and see how it goes. And then after that first 90 days, there was a re-up, right? Which was, again, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, fortunately, because of our businesses, I'm in a position where I can make that type of investment. And this was important enough to me. I was serious enough about it at this point that, I really did look at it as an investment. But nonetheless, it was scary, for me to say, hey, I'm going to, pay all these thousands of dollars for a fitness program. And I hope it works. So I did it, though. I pulled the trigger, made that investment. And, when I did it, I made a commitment to myself. And that commitment was, I'm going to put my ego to the side, right? I'm going to follow blindly, what my trainer tells me to do from a nutrition standpoint, from a training standpoint. I'm going to commit to it for 90 days and I'm going to do every single thing that they tell me to do. And I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to say, well, I used to I used to use battle ropes, in my training, and there's no battle ropes incorporated into it. Or, I used to do intermittent fasting where, I would fast for 16 hours and only eat in 8-hour windows. I threw all of that to the side, right? I swallowed a little bit of pride and I recognized that, I'm spending all of this money to work with someone that knows what the hell they're talking about, has done it themselves. My trainer's freaking jacked. So he's walking the walk himself, but he's also already, and this company, Suprahuman as a whole, has already taken countless other people through this process and gotten transformational results. Okay. So that's where I had to really make the commitment and say, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to try to act like I know better or, push back or resist on any of it. All right. So, like I said, it's May 2nd. I'm recording this. So, call it 4 months in, I'm down 25 pounds. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm not quite, Greek god status yet, but I do feel like I'm well on my way. I've got, some abs poking through. I'm definitely down significantly from a weight standpoint, but even more so a body fat standpoint. And I'm putting on good lean muscle, and I'm learning how to do it the right way. I'm learning how to do it in a sustainable way. And here's the craziest part. Because I was willing to kind of just put my ego to the side and like I said, follow blindly, about 3 or 4 weeks into this whole deal, I kind of had this realization. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is easier than what I was doing before. The workouts, while I'm pushing myself, and again, I'm not phoning it in, I'm really pushing myself, but the workouts are not as intense as the workouts that I was doing for myself. And the best thing is the nutrition side of it has not been that, limiting in terms of what I can and can't eat. It's really just a matter of understanding, what to eat and in what quantities, right? So things like tracking macros, right? And how much protein are you taking in every day? How many calories should I be, trying to stay under, for the day, while also hitting these other macro targets, proteins, carbohydrates, fats. But as long as you're doing that, right? So these are the guardrails, right? That my trainer provided to me. But as long as I'm staying within those guardrails, I've been able to eat whatever I want, So I love cheeseburgers. I love to make smash burgers on my grill. We still do that like once a week, right? My kids love pizza. We still have pizza probably once a week. Obviously, there's some discipline, and obviously you can't go, nuts with some of this stuff. But the point is, because my trainer understands the science, behind the nutrition, and we spent a lot of time really talking about what my goals are and what I was looking to get out of this. He came up with a plan for me, and I committed to following that plan. So not done, not where I want to be, ultimately, but I feel like I've made really, really good progress. So what's the point of all this? Again, I realize most of you probably could care less about, my fitness journey and, what I'm learning about good nutrition, but, there's a parallel here, right? And if you haven't, picked up on where I'm going yet, the parallel I'm drawing is, this experience that I just shared with you to that of, investing in a franchise business. If business ownership is a goal of yours, a lot of people get really stuck. They just kind of spin their wheels. They kind of know they have this, idea in the back of their mind. In some cases, it's been there for years and years and years that they want to own their own business. They want to break away from, being beholden to an employer or being beholden to someone else for their livelihood. And, maybe they do a lot of research, right? I have a lot of initial phone calls with people that, they've spent countless hours, online Googling, and, that can feel productive sometimes, right? It feels like you're trying, just like I felt like I was doing the right things because I was, working out consistently, and I was at least thinking about, eating right. Um, so, a lot of people kind of get stuck in this rut where, they're just spinning their wheels, but they're not really taking any steps forward, towards the goal that they're working towards. So, I think there's a couple of other, parallels here that are worth kind of pointing out. If you're listening to this podcast, then there's a good chance that you're looking to create more freedom in your own life. There's also a good chance that you realize that owning your own business can be a great way to take more control of your livelihood and create more of that freedom that we're all looking for. Also, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you realize that I specialize in franchise ownership. In addition to owning franchise businesses myself, I have a franchise consulting firm, Path to Freedom, where I help people navigate what is typically an overwhelming process of understanding franchising, identifying specific franchise companies that could be a fit, and then conducting the due diligence in a thorough and efficient manner with those franchise brands. My whole purpose here is to leverage my experience working for franchisors, owning franchises myself, and how we've been able to use that to create more freedom in our lives and help you determine if that could be a path that makes sense for you as well. So if any of this sounds interesting, if you've considered business ownership in the past, whether you've explored franchising specifically or not, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to learn more about you and what it is that you're working towards in your life, and determine if I may be in a position to help. A great starting point is the link below in the show notes, which will take you to a short form to fill out, and you'll receive a free copy of an ebook that I've put together, The 7 Steps to Freedom Through Franchise Ownership. That'll also get us connected, and I'd love to set up an introductory call where I can explain a little bit more about the process that I use to help people determine if franchise ownership could be a great way to start charting their own path to freedom. So click the link below in the show notes, receive the ebook, and let's get connected. I'd love to hear from you. So, I think one of the most obvious parallels here is the simple fact that when you invest in a franchise, and just like I always do when I talk about franchising, I'll preface this by saying, when you invest in a good franchise business that's structured the right way, that's actually providing value to the franchisees, value that justifies what it costs you to be a franchisee, and if you invest in a franchise business that's right for you. The right franchise for one person is not necessarily going to be the right franchise for someone else. That's what my process that I take people through is all about. But anyways, if you invest in the right franchise for you and a good franchise, it's very similar to my experience with the trainer, right? Instead of having to go about it on your own, instead of having to, try to figure it out and potentially, being stuck, even though you're putting in the time, energy, and effort, and even money, the good franchisors out there, they've done it before. They've built a successful business themselves, so just like my trainer, they're walking the walk, right? But they've also shown other people how to do it. And those other people have gotten good results as well. And, I'm sure Suprahuman, this, company that I'm working with, has had numerous clients that have, paid the money, started the program, and not gotten the results, right? Because they can't do the work for their clients, right? They can, again, give you the playbook. They can give you the guardrails. They can give you all the knowledge and expertise. They can even hold you accountable. But if the client doesn't do the work, they're not going to get the fitness results, right? So I'm sure they've had people, drop out after a period of time. Just like any franchise system that's been out there for any, any amount of time. Not all of their franchisees are going to go on to be successful. Certainly not all of their franchisees are going to obtain the same levels of success. It's the ones that, really put in the work and execute that are going to get the best results. But that's kind of the second parallel here too, right? Is when you invest in a franchise business, follow the system. And I would even say follow the system blindly, at least for a period of time, until you really know what you're doing. You have an established business. So, just like I had to do with this trainer, I had to drop my ego a little bit. I had to say, look, what I've been doing on my own is not getting the results I want. So let me learn from this person and from this organization that does have the results I want and has successfully shown many other people how to get it. So same deal in a good franchise business, right? This is one of the most mind-blowing but also aggravating things that I see is when, people invest in a franchise business and then, almost in some cases right out of the gate, they're pushing back, they're fighting the system. They think they have a better way of doing it. And I'm not saying at some point don't, start thinking outside of the box a little bit if you own a franchise business, and don't, give some feedback to the franchisor, or, bring new ideas or suggestions to the table. The best franchise systems out there, they love that from their franchisees. They encourage that, but that should come later, right? That should come after, you've learned everything you can from the franchisor. Once you really know what the business is, what success looks like. So anyways, I think that's the other parallel. For me with this fitness program, like I said, it was a lot of money that I invested, right? And I think that for me was a big component of being able to make the mindset shift of, hey, I'm freaking doing this, and I'm committing, I'm all in, right? Because I had serious skin in the game. And I share this with people. I was talking to a friend of mine recently who he and his wife own a franchise, and I helped them get into it a few years ago. And it's been, they've had some ups and downs for sure, just like every business owner does. But I share this with people. I think this is one of the things that maybe sometimes people don't think about as much when they think about the benefits of owning a good franchise business. And that is the skin in the game piece, right? I've seen people, my wife and I have started, businesses that were not franchises, where we didn't have a whole lot of skin in the game in terms of kind of, initial investment to get the business going. I've seen this with so many other people too. When you don't have that skin in the game, it's a lot easier to walk away when things get tough, and things will get tough. I don't care what the business is. I don't care how good you are. Things will get tough. You will have shitty days, and there will be times where, you're like, it's going to be so much easier if I just walk away from this. Right. And that's a lot easier to do if you don't have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of skin in the game. So when you invest in a franchise business, you pay the franchisor, fairly substantial franchise fees up front. Right. And there's, value in exchange for that. Right. That's what gets you access to, the systems, the processes, the training, the branding, the marketing. Most franchises have some sort of a protected territory model, which is actually an asset that sits on your balance sheet. And that's, a big part of what you're getting when you pay those initial franchise fees. But the point is, it's a hell of a lot harder to walk away when things get tough, because you have that skin in the game. And I think for most business owners, the first, 12 to 18 months are going to be the most challenging. And that's probably when, a lot of business owners fold, is in that first year to year and a half. Right. So if, because you have that skin in the game, you're able to push through, chances are you're going to be glad that you didn't walk away. And I think that was the same for me with this training program, right? Like the first month was probably the hardest because it was, I wasn't I was learning, right? And I was having to figure out how to incorporate these things that I was doing into my day-to-day routine. And it was also tougher because obviously it takes a while to start seeing some results, right? I didn't, wake up after the first week of this program and be like, damn, I look great. No, it took a while, but once I started seeing, some physical results, that made it a lot easier for me to keep pushing. That built momentum. So same deal in a business, right? You're not going to be profitable after your first week of business or month of business. Chances are different businesses, can ramp up quicker than others, but there's always going to be that ramp up period with a business. And once you start getting to the point where you've got some money coming in and some cash flow, and you're starting to reap some of the rewards from all of your hard work, makes it a hell of a lot easier to keep pushing and to get through the tough days. So I think that's an interesting comparison there as well. And then I think another is accountability. There were days, and still are days, where I didn't feel like doing the workout that my trainer had written for me. I didn't feel like, tracking my food. That was one of the big adjustments for me was, I talked about the nutrition targets that I have, and those targets have been, adjusting based on the progress that I've made and kind of what phase of the program I'm in. But there were days where I didn't feel like doing it, right? Or I just wanted to go, buck wild and, eat 3 cheeseburgers instead of 1, or whatever the case was, right? But we track everything. My trainer can look at it in real time, and there were definitely instances where I made the right decision, not because I wanted to make the right decision. I made the right decision because I didn't want my trainer to see that I made the wrong decision, right? So that accountability piece, I think, is huge. Another parallel I'll draw, and then I'll wrap this up here pretty quickly. But, one of the other things that drew me to this training program and this company, Suprahuman, is that, there's a big cultural component to this, right? I think I mentioned earlier their main focus and their main kind of customer demographic is CEOs and entrepreneurs, right? So people that are busting it in business, people that are highly successful in that aspect of their life. But there's like a mastermind component to it as well, right? So, I have my trainer that I kind of work one-on-one with, but, then we have this mastermind group where, we meet, we share information, we share ideas, we just talk about things, and that has been hugely valuable, right? So not only am I getting value from the organization itself, right, which you could compare to the franchisor in my little example here, but I'm also getting a lot of value from the other members, of this group. I'm learning from a lot of them, and not just about fitness and nutrition, right? Like, there are some people in this group, probably most of the people in this group are much, much further along than I am, from in terms of financial success, right? And what they've accomplished in business. So, I mean, it's like a freaking gold mine for me just to be able to hear and learn from some of these other folks. So you get that in a good franchise too. Not only do you benefit from what the franchisor, is teaching you and the different ways that they're supporting you, but in a really good franchise, especially if it's one that's a good fit for you, it's a good cultural fit, there's so much value that can come from relationships with other franchisees. Think about it. You own a business in your local market. Again, like we've already talked about, there's challenges, there's going to be bad days. How nice would it be to have a network of other people that all own the exact same business as you? They're not competitors, right? Because they're in different markets and everyone's got protected territory. So they're really your peers. But they're doing the same thing that you're doing. They're building the same business that you're building. So on those tough days, you've got a support network. And, the really good franchises out there, they intentionally, try to create a culture where shared learning and, best practices, are shared amongst all of the franchisees. And it's really that, rising tide raises all boats type of thing. I always mess that quote up, but I think I got it right. So anyways, that's another, to me, really, really interesting parallel there. So one last point I want to make, and then we are putting a bow on this episode, right? So far I've been drawing the comparison between, this training program that I'm a part of and, joining a franchise organization as a way to start a business versus going at it on your own. One other comparison, though, is, look, if you're interested in, exploring franchise ownership, learning more about it, figuring out if it even really could be a direction that makes sense for you, again, why go at it on your own? Why not work with someone that has done it, is doing it themselves, and can really give you a methodical process to follow, and understands, the right way to navigate this whole process from, learning what you need to know to even, really have a sense of if owning a franchise could be right for you. And then if it is something you want to explore further, how to go about identifying the right types of franchise businesses, and then how to thoroughly and properly do the research and the due diligence to really understand these different franchise opportunities and, whether or not it's worth making an investment in. So that's where I come in. I love nothing more than getting on the phone with someone that just has some good questions and genuinely wants to learn more about franchise ownership. I have no expectations of where it goes from there. If I'm in a position to help and the interest is there, then absolutely. I've got a very thorough, very methodical process that I work through with people, to really help them get clear on what do they want to get out of a business, what are the key characteristics of a business that makes the most sense from them, what type of lifestyle do they really want as a business owner. I think that's something that a lot of people miss or don't put enough thought into when they're, looking at different business opportunities for themselves. So love to help people through this process, right? And I'm able to, really lean on my experience working for numerous franchisors earlier in my career. So, I have good perspective from the franchisor side of the table, but also now as a franchisee. Currently we own two different brands that we've built. Both are, 7-figure plus businesses. We've done some things well, but we've definitely messed some things up too, right? So that's all, real life experience that I'm able to really, leverage to help the people that I work with through the process. So that's the last comparison I would draw, right? Is if business ownership is something that's of interest to you, and if franchise ownership has really not been on your radar up to this point, I'd encourage you to, just think about it, learn more about it, and it's not just fast food restaurants, guys. If you've listened to the podcast for any amount of time, that I don't really work with food brands. I'm not a huge proponent of, food brands from an ROI and a lifestyle. I'm a consumer of some of these, right? I don't have anything against food, but from, a business ownership standpoint, they're not, at the top of my list. But anyways, there's so many different types of franchises out there. Chances are, there's a lot more to franchising than, what you may currently think at this point in time, unless you've really dug in and done some extensive research. So that'd be the first thing. Is I'd encourage you to, if you're kind of spinning your wheels, even if that means you've been putting some time and energy into it, right? Doing the research, and whatnot, take some steps towards, maybe looking at a pathway that's going to give you more of that support system like I've described here today. And if you think you'd like to learn more about franchise ownership, reach out to me. Like I said, I'm happy to talk to anyone that, just has some questions or just wants to learn. And if it goes nowhere beyond that first call, that's perfectly fine. And if it does, go somewhere beyond that, that's great too. And here's the best part, like I said, I've invested thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars at this point into this fitness program, and it's worth it. I'm happy that I did it, but my services are free, right? My services won't cost you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Obviously, there's an investment required if you decide that you do want to, move forward with owning a franchise, but that money doesn't come to me. That money goes to obviously the franchisor and startup costs and whatnot. So I do get paid by the franchisors if and when I introduce them to someone that goes on to become a franchisee. But my services are always free to the individuals that I work with. There's never any obligation. There's never any pressure. It truly is my goal to just, help open people's eyes to the possibilities of franchise ownership. Owning franchises has been amazing for me and for my family. It's given us a lifestyle that we never would have had, when we were working for other people. It's giving us financial resources. And we're really just getting started, on our journey. So I just want to help other people, understand this avenue, that it is an option. And I think there's a lot of people out there that franchise ownership could be amazing for, but it's not something that they've really thought about or looked into, or it's not on their radar. So that's my mission, guys. So, reach out if you think you'd be interested to learn more. Tons of podcast episodes out there. We're working on building out the YouTube channel to get more, good informational content out that way. I've got a newsletter that you can sign up for. And again, I'm always happy to jump on a call and, meet you and answer any questions and see if I may be in a position to help. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for dropping in, and go take some steps towards reaching your goals, whatever those may be. Thanks.